on distribution. So first, I just will say it is a large task, but it's a task that we are up for. And we're going to take a whole of America approach. That's why we're going to be able to do this. And we've been working on this now for over 6 months. Since the announcement 6 months ago on May 15th, we literally started planning accordingly. And it is the foundation of our planning started with the great experts at the CDC, and it's been extended to the jurisdiction planners so that we have a great collaborative plan on how to execute this together, right? And as the Secretary talked about earlier, we have implemented several mechanisms to allow other organizations inside of America to enable execution. Not one source or one organization will be responsible, but it's the collective group of us that will make this successful. So distribution of the vaccine will be based on fair and equitable availability of the vaccine pro rata to the population. So in other words, population of the state against available vaccine will be distributed to each state. We have been working these numbers with the states for a little while, and every week that goes by, we are able to create a tighter shot group of the actual numbers and the allocations that will be available to each state as we get going. Distribution will be by jurisdiction. As I've talked about, I use jurisdiction in states, sometimes inappropriately. So let me define jurisdictions, 64 of them, 50 states, 8 territories, and 6 metropolitan cities equal the 64 jurisdictions. We're doing extensive planning with each of these organizations so that we implement their plan. Right, so they will figure out where we want the vaccine to be distributed to and administered, and that's where the vaccine will be distributed accordingly. So we want to emphasize following, of course, FDA guidelines, CDC, ACIP guidelines. The governors and the states will figure out the plan, and we are ready to execute in collaboration with their plan as we've been working on for 6 months, doing numerous tabletop exercises and now extending it into actual rehearsals of how to move the product from fill-finish sites to distribution centers down to actual administration sites. We are making sure, as I said, that it's a whole of American approach. So let me pull the string on that a little bit for you. So clearly here in Health and Human Services, the CDC, the cornerstone, are experts that know how to distribute vaccine as they do every year annually for influenza, as they've done for H1N1, etc. Very talented group of people who know all the technical aspects and all the requirements that are needed to make sure that the vaccine, once we have it fill-finished, we can distribute in a safe and effective way. The second step, as I mentioned earlier, is the 100% collaboration with the jurisdictions, making sure that we are integrated and synchronized and ready to implement their plan for way they want to execute immunization down at the administration sites as they define it. And we're ready to do that because we've been working together for quite a while. CDC published a playbook back in September, and the jurisdictions have been going through the playbook, filling it out. We've been collaborating, and we've been working the plan and the nuances to make sure that every detail is covered. Second, we are working with commercial industry, the experts in this field, those that know how to produce, store, distribute, and administer the vaccine accordingly. They do this every day. This is the United States of America. This is not new to us. And so organizations, of course, starting with Pfizer and Moderna, right, who know how to produce, fill finish, and then begin distribution of the vaccine, right? It's their core competency. Then we're working with McKesson, a large, very large distribution company that knows how to produce or distribute vaccine throughout the entire country, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And then, as the Secretary mentioned, we have collaborated with pharma such as CVS and Walgreens, right? And so that we have already laid out plans and coordinated memorandums of agreement to ensure that we're executing the right way in accordance with the jurisdiction plans. As they direct, we'll execute. So we're bringing this whole of America approach from government to industry, and we're bringing it all together to ensure that safe and effective vaccines are delivered to the American people in a timely manner. The time associated with delivery. We will begin distribution of the vaccine within 24 hours after emergency use authorization is approved, right? And only after the science has determined and approved it accordingly, then we are poised and ready to begin distribution. Distribution will occur from our fill-finish sites, and we'll go to all 64 jurisdictions that we are responsible to ensure that they get vaccine for within 24 hours. So everybody, every jurisdiction will have access immediately. Upon the initial push of vaccine, which is the quantities of vaccine that are available upon the emergency use authorization, then we will begin a weekly cadence of delivery of vaccine. As vaccine comes off the shelf, as it has been approved and available for distribution, we will distribute it to the 64 jurisdictions. So, initial push, and then continuous cadence of delivery of vaccine to ensure that we rapidly expand the availability to the entire country simultaneously. We are working with jurisdictions to do several things, though, that we need to make sure that we get done as we get closer to final approval at the EUA by the FDA. 3 things that we're working with the jurisdictions that we need to have. First, we must have jurisdictions create good, solid, expansive provider enrollment, right? As many organizations as they want need to be enrolled so that we can expand distribution rapidly to the quantities of vaccine that's available. Only to providers that are enrolled can we distribute to. So they can limit it to a certain amount, or they can expand it so that we can ensure that we're covering the entire country, as the Secretary alluded to in his comments. Very key point. We have made significant progress in this area. We are just counting the eaches of provider enrollments that we need to get done as we get closer and closer to final distribution day. Second, we must have the states go through and sign their data use agreements. This is incredibly important, right, for the new vaccine going out to the American people. First, we must be able to see who got their first dose, where they got their first dose, and what vaccine did they receive as their first dose. Why? Because we must ensure that we can do the same for the second dose of each vaccine that we're sending out. The second thing, and really important, is we want to make sure that we have a good, consistent flow of vaccine out to the American people. And so our ability to track the uptake, the actual administration of the shot in an arm, is going to be essential to us making sure we deliver vaccine on a continuous basis. So really important. The third thing I would keep the jurisdictions working on is their actual rehearsals in the execution of the plan. We conduct tabletop exercises at this level, right, where all of government and industry and jurisdictions participate, but then we're expanding it now to actual execution down at the tactical level or down in the local cities. How do we work a distribution of vaccine through the CVS, Walgreens, et cetera, at the hospital? How does it actually get received, unloaded, stored, and then administered is the rehearsals we're working. I continually emphasize this when I talk to jurisdictions. It is a great mechanism to check and double check to make sure everything is in place. What we're doing to make sure that that we are ready at this level after working these details for the last 6 months, as I've told the team, 2 things we must have. One, upon emergency use authorization, all of America must receive vaccine within 24 hours, as I said. I think this is incredibly important. Fair and equitable distribution of the vaccine throughout the country simultaneously. There is no haves and have-nots. It is an equitable distribution, and we are driving hard to make sure that that happens. The second thing that we want to do is make sure that the cadence of vaccine delivery following the first push is routine so that states/jurisdictions can plan for it and account and develop execution of the administration in a routine method so that the population is well informed and that they know where to get the vaccine and when to get the vaccine. And so those 2 points we're driving home as key essential tasks at our level. And so, Mr. Secretary, thank you. Paul.